Hello, everyone. Today I'll be talking about my research project, which is on the Orthodox Church in the United States. According to our university's guidelines, historians must be objective and honest in their research. And what I've tried to do for the project is simply to tell the story of how and why the Eastern Orthodox Church became part of America's Christian heritage. Just as Protestantism and Catholicism also did, although the Eastern Orthodox Church is perhaps less widely understood or thought about in the context of the United States. When we think about America and the role of Christianity in this country, including through many of the learning materials we've used this year, we often see the church interacting in different ways or phases throughout the country's history. The early phase of settlement and colonization, including interaction with the indigenous peoples, missionary efforts, and so on and so forth. The waves of immigration, which brought new and different kinds of Christian streams to the United States, along with other religions as a whole. And also the more modern era. How does the church and how do believers interact with an increasingly secularized society, and how do they wield their own communal power to shape politics where and when necessary and possible? All these trends are present with the Orthodox Christian community in the United States. For one of my paper's sources for the mid-19th century, I looked at the journals of Yakov Netsvetov, who is of mixed Russian and native Aleutian heritage. And unlike other Orthodox missionaries of the time in Alaska, Netsvetov was less interested in Russifying the indigenous peoples, perhaps because he was partially indigenous himself, or perhaps because he saw that these campaigns were often met with violent reactions and widespread mistrust between both communities. Instead, he sought to gently persuade the native peoples to join the Orthodox Church. Now, he was adamantly opposed to shamanism, but instead what he managed to do is gently speak to a lot of the tribes and their leaders and persuade them that through joining the church, they would achieve salvation, community, in a great relationship with the Lord. He often managed to publish liturgy and other religious texts in native languages, or he would rely on trusted translators to do this for him. And ultimately, he was very successful in gaining a new flock of believers to come to the Orthodox Church. Around the turn of the 20th century, we moved to the second phase that I had mentioned earlier, which is immigration. And a good example here is a Slavic community known as Carpatho-Rusines from the Hungarian, Polish, and Ukrainian border area, which at the time was an intersection of the Austro-Hungarian and Russian empires. Many of these immigrants from that community to the United States were Catholic, but they practiced according to the Byzantine rite rather than the Latin rite practiced in most Catholic churches in the United States. So they were met with suspicion and even hostility in some cases from many American Catholic churches. According to George M. Soldatov and Edward Pahanich, St. Alexis Toth, a member of the Orthodox Church who had his own differences with Catholic clergy in the United States, successfully advocated for many of the Carpatho-Rusines and managed to get a good number of them to convert to Orthodox Christianity. Now, as the years progressed into this era, we also saw that new Orthodox immigrants faced different challenges. Right after World War I and the Spanish influenza, there was, of course, a wave of paranoia about Bolshevism in this country in the aftermath of the Russian Revolution and Civil War. Many Americans were suspicious of Russians and or Orthodox Christians for being foreign and red infiltrators. Now, I touched up before in a previous video about R.M.G. Sarkisian talking about how many internal disagreements between members of the Orthodox churches in the Detroit area existed between those who sympathized with the Tsar, those who sympathized with the Bolshevik revolutionaries, and various other factions often turned on each other and ratted each other out in personal rivalries to the authorities. So that only heightened suspicion within the church amongst their own community, as well as in the United States more widely. Moving into the third phase of political power and assimilation and taking part in American society. We have, during the Jim Crow era in the South, the Greek Orthodox communities of immigrants who face their own challenges by being targeted by the KKK for being seen as foreign, non-Christian, and non-white in some way. Archbishop Yakovos, for example, chose to march with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at Selma, seeking to wield his own religious authority to make a political statement against injustice, partially motivated by the discrimination his own community faced in his native Turkey. Yakovos had to navigate the communal and political challenges of joining in the civil rights movement, including among his own community, fears that they had about retribution from the KKK and others for associating perhaps the Greek Orthodox Church or the Archbishop Yakovos with Dr. King. In today's era, of course, the Orthodox Church has grown and even expanded, as in the decades since, new immigrants from Ethiopia, the Middle East, Cyprus, Ukraine, and elsewhere have arrived on our shores, and American-born practitioners as well as converts have also joined the church and sustained Orthodox communal life in the U.S. So just as streams of Christianity from Catholicism or Protestantism, along with other religions, have gone through the process of immigration, arrival, assimilation, and Americanization, so too is the Orthodox Church. Thank you.